My beloved child, pause whatever you are doing and listen carefully, because this moment is not ordinary. This is not coincidence. This is not another video that randomly appeared on your screen. God himself has released Archangel Michael with an urgent message for you, and the timing of this message is critical. Something is already in motion. A major change is scheduled to unfold tonight, and heaven is making one last intervention before it manifests fully in your life. Archangel Michael is standing with his sword drawn, not in anger, but in authority. He is not here to frighten you. He is here to warn you, protect you, and realign what has quietly shifted behind the scenes. Many things have been happening beneath the surface that you could not see, but tonight marks a turning point. You still have time to stop what is about to occur, but only if you hear this message with your spirit and not just your ears. Hear this clearly. Not every change that comes suddenly is sent by God. Some changes are allowed as wake-up calls. Others are triggered by delayed obedience, ignored nudges, or spiritual fatigue. Archangel Michael says that the shift plan for tonight was not meant to catch you unprepared, but you have been carrying more than you realize, and it has opened a door that should have remained sealed. You may have felt it already. A strange heaviness, a sense of restlessness, a thought that keeps returning, especially at night. This is not anxiety without reason. This is discernment awakening. Heaven has been watching closely, and Archangel Michael has been assigned to intervene because your destiny is too important to be disrupted by something temporary. The message is urgent because tonight acts like a hinge. What happens in the spiritual realm within the next few hours will determine whether the door swings toward peace or toward unnecessary struggle. And listen carefully, this does not mean something terrible must happen. It means a correction must happen. Archangel Michael says there is one specific area of your life where you have been putting up with something God never asked you to tolerate. It could be a pattern, a relationship, a habit, a compromise, or even a silent agreement you made out of exhaustion. You told yourself, I'll deal with it later. But later has arrived. God is merciful, yes, but He is also precise. And when precision is required, He sends Michael. Tonight, a decision will be presented to you subtly. It will not look dramatic. It may come as a conversation, a message, a thought, or an opportunity. If you are not spiritually alert, you may respond the same way you always have. But Archangel Michael warns that responding on autopilot will activate a chain reaction you did not intend to start. This is why you were led here now. You still have time to stop it, not by fear, not by force, but by alignment. Alignment with truth. Alignment with God's original instruction. Alignment with your authority as a child of God. Archangel Michael says the enemy hath been counting on your silence, counting on your weariness, counting on you saying, it's not that serious. But heaven says it is serious, not because you are weak, but because you are chosen. And chosen lives attract both favor and resistance. Do not misunderstand this moment. This message is not here to accuse you. It is here to awaken you. The fact that you are hearing this before tonight unfolds is proof that God is still guarding you closely. Many people do not get warnings. They only get consequences. You, however, have been granted insight. Here is also something else Archangel Michael is revealing. This change that wants to occur tonight will disguise itself as relief at first. It will feel like an easy option, a shortcut to a release from pressure. But what begins as relief will later demand repayment with interest, emotionally, spiritually, or relationally. That is why God says, watch now. Not later. Not tomorrow. Now. Archangel Michael is urging you to slow your reactions and sharpen your discernment. Speak less tonight. Decide less tonight. Pray more tonight. If something feels rushed, it is not from God. Heaven never rushes, only pressure does. You are not late. You have not failed. But you are standing at a threshold. And here is the part that should grip your heart. Archangel Michael says that once you choose correctly tonight, the enemy loses legal access to repeat this cycle again. This is not just about stopping something negative. It is about closing a door permanently. That is why the urgency is real. God says He is willing to redirect the outcome, but He will not override your will. He will send warnings, confirmations, messengers, but the response must come from you. So take a breath. Let this message settle. Ask God quietly, show me what I need to see before tonight ends. And He will answer clearly. Because this moment was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to refine you. And what Archangel Michael is guarding on the other side of this decision is far greater than what you think you are about to lose. My dear one, now that you have heard the warning, Archangel Michael wants you to understand why this moment carries such weight. Heaven does not send urgent messages without cause. There is a spiritual pattern surrounding you that has been repeating quietly, almost invisibly, and tonight is where that pattern either breaks or strengthens. This is not about punishment. This is about prevention. God is revealing the root so you do not have to keep dealing with the fruit. Archangel Michael says you have been standing in a season of transition longer than expected. You thought it was temporary, but it stretched. You believed the clarity would come quickly, but instead you were asked to wait, endure, and adapt. Over time, waiting turned into weariness, and weariness slowly dulled your sensitivity. Nothing dramatic changed on the outside, but inside, your spiritual alertness was tested again and again. This is how subtle shifts happen, not through rebellion, but through fatigue. Archangel Michael reveals that the major change attempting to occur tonight is connected to a moment where you are tempted to settle rather than stand. Settle for an explanation instead of truth. Settle for comfort instead of conviction. Settle for silence instead of obedience. None of these choices look sinful. In fact, they look reasonable. And that is what makes them dangerous. God says the enemy rarely comes with chaos when dealing with chosen lives. He comes with compromise dressed as peace. You may be telling yourself, I just want things to be calm. But Archangel Michael says calm without alignment becomes a trap. There is a difference between rest that God gives and rest that you take because you are tired of fighting. One restores you. The other slowly redirects you. Tonight you will feel the urge to choose what feels easier. That urge is not evil, but it must be examined. Ask yourself this: does this choice bring me closer to God's voice, or does it simply quiet my discomfort? Heaven measures decisions differently than emotions do. Archangel Michael also reveals that someone connected to this situation does not see the full picture. They are acting from their own understanding, not from malice. But if you follow their lead without prayer, you inherit their blind spots. God is calling you to lead with discernment, not to follow out of loyalty or habit. This is why tonight matters. God says you are not being asked to do something dramatic. You are being asked to do something intentional. Slow down. Question what feels right. Delay what feels forced. Speak truth where you normally stay quiet. Even one small act of obedience tonight can stop a chain of events that would take months to undo. Archangel Michael is guarding your peace, but he cannot override your choices. He can only strengthen you to choose rightly. Now hear this reassurance. If you are feeling uneasy while listening, that is not fear. That is awareness returning. Fear pushes you into panic. Awareness pulls you into prayer. And God prefers awareness over ignorance every time. There is also a promise here. If you respond correctly tonight, the change that was meant to disrupt you will be replaced by a different change, one that brings clarity instead of confusion. God does not leave empty spaces. When He blocks something, He prepares something else. But you must stay present. This is why Archangel Michael says, do not drown this message out with distractions. Do not scroll past conviction. Do not talk yourself out of discernment. Treat tonight as sacred. Even if nothing visible happens, something invisible is shifting in your favor. And listen carefully, this message is not only for you. There are others connected to your obedience. When you choose correctly, someone else is spared confusion. Someone else is protected. Someone else receives clarity because you held your ground. That is how influence works in the kingdom of God. Before this moment passes, let your spirit anchor into this truth. You are not behind. You are not weak. You are being trusted with timing-sensitive instruction because God knows you can handle it. And now, if this message is already stirring your heart, take a moment to engage with it actively. Let this not be something you hear and forget. Support the spread of this word by liking this message, sharing it with someone who may need this warning, and leaving a comment declaring that you are choosing discernment tonight. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next release, because the clarity that follows this warning will answer questions you have been carrying for a long time. Hold on, because what Archangel Michael reveals next will connect the dots in a way you did not expect, and it may explain why this pattern has followed you for so long. My precious one, Archangel Michael now draws your attention to something deeply personal, something you may have avoided naming out loud. This is the heart of the matter. Heaven is not only concerned with what may happen tonight, but with why this moment was allowed to come so close in the first place. God is revealing this not to shame you, but to heal you at the root. Archangel Michael says there was a moment in your past where you learned to survive instead of fully trust. It was not your fault. You adapted because you had to. You became strong, independent, guarded. You learned how to keep moving even when answers were missing. But what once protected you has quietly begun to limit you. Survival mode kept you alive, but it cannot lead you into promise. Tonight's potential change is connected to this very pattern. God says there is an old agreement in your spirit that sounds like, I will handle this myself, or I cannot expect too much, or I should not rock the boat. These are not thoughts you consciously chose. They were formed in seasons where disappointment taught you caution. But Archangel Michael says that agreement is expiring now. Here is the warning and the invitation combined. If you continue operating from old survival instincts, tonight's decision will feel logical but will pull you backward. If you operate from renewed trust, the same situation will become a doorway into freedom. This is why the choice feels heavy. Archangel Michael reveals that heaven is watching how you respond when you are tired, not when you are inspired. Anyone can obey when strength is high, but obedience when weary is what seals breakthroughs. And God says He has been measuring your endurance, not to test you, but to prepare you. There is also a spiritual battle happening around your discernment. Not dramatic, not loud, but subtle. The enemy wants you to believe that obedience always costs you something. But Archangel Michael says obedience tonight will cost you nothing you were meant to keep. What you may lose is an illusion of control. What you gain is peace that does not depend on circumstances. God says you have prayed before asking Him to change situations. But now He is asking you to change posture. Instead of asking Him to remove the pressure, is asking you to respond differently under it. And shift alone is enough to stop what is trying to form tonight. Pay attention to how often God has already protected you without you realizing it. Delays that saved you. Closed doors that frustrated you. Silence that forced you to wait. None of that was accidental. Archangel Michael says tonight is simply the visible intersection of many invisible protections. This is why fear has no place here. Instead, receive this instruction. Tonight, choose truth over ease. Choose clarity over comfort. Choose obedience over explanation. You do not owe everyone understanding, but you owe God alignment. If you feel resistance rising inside you, that is the old pattern being challenged. Let it rise. Let it surface. Then release it. Say quietly, God, I trust you more than my coping mechanisms. That prayer alone shifts the atmosphere. Archangel Michael declares that once this old agreement is broken, the cycle ends. Not pauses. Ends. What tried to repeat will lose its rhythm. What tried to follow you will lose its access. This is not hype. This is authority being reclaimed. And here is the promise God wants you to hold on to tonight. You will not regret obedience in the morning. You may not understand everything immediately, but you will feel lighter, clearer, more anchored. That is how you know heaven intervened. Before this message moves forward, receive this activation with intention. Type I choose alignment in the comments if this message is speaking to your spirit. Lesson code 3849 has just been released. And now, hear this final invitation flowing directly from what you have just received. If this message reached you at the right time, it is because God intends it to reach many others who are standing at similar thresholds. This word is a seed, and seeds are meant to be sown. As Scripture declares, God says to you personally, as you sow, so shall you reap, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. When you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or a PayPal seed found in the description, you are placing oil into the lamp so this warning can shine farther. I am speaking to those who feel the urgency in their spirit right now. This is your moment to act, not later. Your giving becomes a prophetic response, not a donation, and I release blessing over every hand that obeys. So now, and let God multiply what you release in faith. Beloved child of God, Archangel Michael now asks you to lift your perspective beyond the immediate moment and see what tonight is truly connected to. This is not an isolated decision. It is a convergence point. Many threads from your past, present, and future are meeting here, and heaven wants you to recognize the pattern so you do not misinterpret the pressure. There have been repeated seasons where you felt close to breakthrough, yet something always seemed to interrupt the momentum. Just as clarity approached, confusion appeared. Just as peace settled, a new demand surfaced. Archangel Michael says this was not coincidence, and it was not because you were doing something wrong. It was because you were nearing a level of authority that required refinement before release. God does not promote without preparation. Tonight's moment exists because you are crossing from endurance into stewardship. Up until now, you have been learning how to stand, how to survive storms, how to remain faithful without answers. But what is coming next requires discernment at a higher level. It requires you to recognize not just what is wrong, but what is almost right. Archangel Michael reveals that the most dangerous distractions in your life have never been obvious sins. They have been reasonable alternatives, options that looked good, sounded wise, and felt safe. Yet they quietly pulled you away from God's best. Heaven is not rebuking you for choosing them. Heaven is simply saying the season of almost is ending. This is why tonight carries weight. You may notice that the decision before you is not about morality, but about direction. Both paths look acceptable. Both seem manageable. But only one aligns fully with God's original instruction. The other delays you just enough to keep you circling instead of advancing. Archangel Michael wants you to understand that delay is one of the enemy's favorite tools. He does not always need to stop you. Sometimes he only needs to slow you down until you forget what you were moving toward. God says you have been patient, but patience must now be partnered with courage. Courage to say no when something drains you. Courage to say yes when obedience stretches you. Courage to trust that God can sustain what He initiates. There is also an emotional layer here that must be acknowledged. You have been carrying responsibility for outcomes that were never yours to manage. You took on roles God never assigned. You felt guilty stepping back, even when stepping back was necessary. Archangel Michael says tonight is also about releasing false responsibility. You are not called to fix everything. You are called to obey. If you feel a sense of grief as you consider choosing differently, that is normal. Grief does not always mean loss. Sometimes it means growth. You are outgrowing a version of yourself that learned to cope instead of rest. God honors who you were, but He is inviting you into who you are becoming. Archangel Michael is guarding this transition carefully. He is not only watching what you choose, but how you choose. With resentment or with trust. With fear or with faith. Heaven responds to posture as much as to action. God says if you feel unsure tonight, do not rush to resolve the feeling. Sit with Him. Ask for wisdom, not relief. Wisdom will guide you correctly even when relief is delayed. Another truth must be spoken plainly. Not everyone will understand the choice you make. Some may question it. Some may misinterpret it. But obedience does not require consensus. It requires conviction. Archangel Michael reminds you that Jesus Himself was misunderstood while being perfectly aligned. You are not alone in this. Heaven is actively involved. Angels are assigned. Protection is in place. But protection does not eliminate decision. It supports it. Tonight is not about perfection. It is about direction. God says that when you wake up after this moment passes, the atmosphere around you will feel different. Not because circumstances instantly change, but because alignment restores peace. You will know in your spirit that something was corrected. Something was prevented. Something was set back on course. Trust that feeling. It is confirmation. Archangel Michael leaves you with this assurance. Nothing God asks you to release tonight is meant to harm you. Everything He asks you to choose is meant to free you. The door you close is not your future. The door you walk through is. Remain attentive. Remain prayerful. Remain grounded. The warning has been given. The protection is active. The authority is yours to exercise. My dear one, Archangel Michael now speaks with a tone of calm authority, because fear has no assignment here. What remains is understanding. God wants you to clearly recognize the difference between pressure that refines and pressure that deceives. Tonight, the distinction will matter more than ever. There is a kind of pressure that comes from God. It stretches you but does not run you. It invites you to grow while still giving you peace. And then there is pressure that mimics urgency but carries confusion underneath. Archangel Michael says the pressure you have been feeling lately has tried to blend these two together, making it difficult to tell which voice is speaking. This is why discernment is being restored right now. You have been presented with situations where silence seemed safer than honesty, where compliance seemed wiser than confrontation, where postponing a decision felt easier than making the wrong one. None of these responses were sinful. But over time, They taught your spirit to hesitate when God was asking you to stand. Tonight is about retraining that reflex. Archangel Michael reveals that heaven has been allowing small tests to prepare you for this larger moment. Moments where you felt a nudge to speak but stayed quiet. Moments where you felt called to step back but stayed involved. Each time, God noted your heart, not to condemn you, but to understand where reinforcement was needed. God reinforces what He values. That is why this message is coming with clarity instead of chaos. You are not being thrown into confusion. You are being guided out of it. There is also a relational dimension here. Someone connected to this situation benefits from your indecision. Not intentionally, but practically. When you delay, they avoid change. When you comply, they remain comfortable. Archangel Michael says tonight may require you to disrupt a dynamic that has been unbalanced for a long time. This does not mean confrontation must be harsh. It means truth must be present. God says you have mistaken peacekeeping for peacemaking. Peacekeeping avoids tension. Peacemaking establishes truth. One maintains the surface. The other heals the foundation. Tonight, God is calling you to peacemaking. You may worry about the aftermath, about how things will look, about what will shift. But Archangel Michael reminds you that obedience always rearranges before it stabilizes. Do not judge the outcome by the initial movement. Another truth is being revealed. You have underestimated how much spiritual authority you carry. You see yourself as accommodating, adaptable, flexible. God sees you as influential. Your choices set tones. Your responses establish boundaries. Your obedience releases permission for heaven to move. That is why tonight's decision is significant beyond your immediate circle. Archangel Michael says there is a blessing waiting on the other side of this moment that cannot be accessed without this correction. Not because God withholds, but because alignment unlocks. You cannot receive what contradicts the posture you are in. So if God is asking you to stand, it is because something requires a standing posture to receive it. There is no need to dramatize tonight. Simplicity is strength. A clear no. A firm boundary. A prayerful pause. A delayed response. These are powerful acts when done in obedience. You not explain excessively. You not overjustify. God does not need your defense. He needs your agreement. Archangel Michael is also guarding your emotions. You may feel waves of doubt after you choose correctly. That does not mean you chose wrong. That means the old pattern is losing influence. Let the waves pass. Stay anchored. God says that after tonight, you will begin to notice fewer internal battles over small decisions. That is one of the signs that alignment has been restored. Clarity reduces friction. Remember this: God is not asking you to become someone else. He is asking you to return to who you were before survival taught you to shrink. You were always meant to walk with quiet confidence, with discernment, with authority that does not need volume. Archangel Michael stands ready, not to fight for you, but to stand with you as you exercise what God has already placed within you. The warning was real. The window is still open, and the grace to choose rightly is fully available. Rest in that truth as you move forward. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now speaks into the space of uncertainty that often follows awareness. Once truth is revealed, the soul naturally asks, "What now?" God is gentle with this question, but He is also intentional. He does not reveal without guiding, and He does not warn without providing strength to respond. Tonight's atmosphere is not meant to feel heavy. If heaviness tries to settle, it is not from God. Conviction brings clarity. Condemnation brings weight. Archangel Michael says the clarity you are receiving is meant to steady you, not shake you. You are not losing ground. You are reclaiming it. There is something important you must understand. Obedience does not always feel powerful in the moment. Often, it feels quiet, always ordinary. But heaven measures differently. Heaven records obedience not by emotion, but by alignment. What you do in stillness carries just as much weight as what you do in boldness. God says you have been waiting for a sign that confirms you are on the right path. This message is part of that confirmation. The rest will come through peace, not pressure. After you make the right choice, notice what happens inside you. The absence of turmoil is itself a sign. Archangel Michael also wants to address a lingering fear you may have, the fear of repeating old mistakes. You have said to yourself before, "I thought I heard God, but maybe I was wrong." That memory has made you cautious. But God says discernment matures through practice, not avoidance. You are hearing Him more clearly now than you realize. The fact that you are pausing, praying, and reflecting instead of reacting already shows growth. Tonight, if you feel unsure about how to respond externally, focus first on responding internally. Settle your spirit. Agree with God in prayer. Say, "I choose alignment over impulse." Once your spirit is settled, your actions will follow naturally. Archangel Michael reveals that spiritual maturity is not about always knowing what to do. It is about knowing where to turn when you are unsure. And you have turned toward God. That matters. There is also a reminder here about timing. God is not late. You are not early. You are exactly where instruction can still change outcomes. That is mercy in motion. Many people only recognize patterns after consequences appear. You are being shown beforehand. This is why gratitude matters right now. Thank God not only for what He has done, but for what He has prevented. Thank Him for interruptions. Thank Him for delays. Thank Him for clarity arriving before damage. Gratitude shifts your focus from fear of what could happen to trust in who is guiding you. Archangel Michael assures you that nothing about tonight will overwhelm you. You will not be asked to handle more than grace can support. If something feels overwhelming, step back and pray again. God's instructions carry peace, even when they require courage. Now, as this message continues to unfold and strengthen you, take a moment to actively support what is feeding your spirit. If this word is helping you see clearly, engage with it. Like this message, share it with someone who may also be standing at a crossroads, and leave a comment declaring that you are choosing obedience tonight. Make sure you are subscribed so you stay connected to what God is releasing next through this channel. Before you move on, stay with this for a moment longer. What is coming next will bring understanding to why this season felt so intense, and why tonight had to be addressed before anything else could unfold. Trust me, this next layer will connect everything you have been sensing but could not explain. Archangel Michael remains near, not hovering, but standing firm. He is not anxious about your choice. Heaven has confidence in the work God has done within you. You are not guessing anymore. You are discerning. Walk forward with that confidence. My beloved one, Archangel Michael now invites you to look deeper, beyond tonight itself, into what this moment has been protecting all along. God does not interrupt without purpose, and He does not warn without vision. What you are being guarded from is not just a single outcome, but a long-term diversion that would have quietly altered your future if left unchecked. You have been approaching a season where your influence increases, not necessarily publicly but spiritually and relationally. People will begin to lean on your wisdom, your steadiness, your discernment. God has been preparing you for this role through trials that refined your patience and deepened your compassion. But increased influence also attracts increased scrutiny in the spiritual realm. Archangel Michael says this is why precision matters now. There was a narrow window where misalignment could have caused confusion later. Not obvious chaos, but subtle drifting. You would still move forward, still make progress, but not in the fullness God intended. Heaven intervened because partial fulfillment is not acceptable when God has prepared something complete. God says you have underestimated how close you are to answered prayers. You thought the delay meant distance, but it meant protection. The closer you get to promise, the more important your footing becomes. One wrong step does not end the journey, but it can make the path harder than it needs to be. Tonight was about securing the ground beneath you. Archangel Michael reveals that your future requires clarity, not constant correction. God does not want you always fixing what went wrong. He wants you building what is right. This moment was about removing the need for future repairs. You may wonder why God did not intervene sooner. The truth is, you needed to grow into the awareness to recognize the warning. Earlier, you might have dismissed it. And now, you are ready to respond with wisdom rather than emotion. This is growth. There is also something sacred about the timing. Night represents transition in Scripture. It is where endings and beginnings overlap. God often speaks at night not to frighten, but to prepare. Dreams, revelations, and course corrections happen when distractions are fewer and the heart is quieter. Archangel Michael says tonight was chosen because your spirit is receptive, even if your mind feels tired. God wants you to know that nothing you have walked through has been wasted. Every delay sharpened your discernment. Every disappointment trained you to listen more carefully. Even the moments where you felt overlooked were teaching you how to hear God's voice without applause. This is why you can be trusted now. Here is also reassurance for a question you may be holding silently. Will this choice limit me? God answers clearly. Obedience never limits, it positions. What you release tonight creates space. What you refuse tonight creates room. What you align tonight invites provision. Archangel Michael says the future ahead of you requires fewer explanations and stronger boundaries. You will not need to defend your peace. You will protect it instinctively. That instinct is being formed right now. Pay attention in the coming days to how your environment responds. You may notice certain pressures ease. Some conversations lose their urgency. Some expectations fall away. This is not loss. This is alignment settling in. God also wants you to forgive yourself for moments when you did not choose correctly in the past. Self-blame keeps you tied to old versions of yourself. Forgiveness frees you to walk fully in who you are now. You cannot carry authority while carrying regret. Archangel Michael stands as a witness to this transition, not as a distant observer, but as an assigned guardian ensuring that what God has planted is not uprooted prematurely. You are stepping into a phase where discernment becomes natural, not forced, where peace becomes familiar, not rare, where decisions feel grounded, not rushed. This is what tonight was really about. Hold this truth close. God is not merely stopping something negative. He is stabilizing something powerful. You are being positioned to receive without distortion, to lead without exhaustion, and to move forward without constantly looking over your shoulder. Rest in the awareness that heaven has been active on your behalf. The warning was not a threat. It was an act of love. And love always leads toward freedom. My dear child, Archangel Michael now speaks with a gentler intensity, because what has been guarded must now be anchored. Warnings protect, but understanding stabilizes. God does not want you to walk away from this moment merely relieved. He wants you rooted. What has shifted tonight must be sealed in your spirit so it does not reopen under future pressure. There is a truth you must receive clearly. Alignment is not a one-time event. It is a posture. And tonight was about restoring that posture in you. God knows that life will continue. Demands will return. Voices will compete again. That is why this moment is not meant to fade when the night ends. Archangel Michael reveals that one of the enemy's most subtle strategies is to make people believe that clarity expires. That if they do not act perfectly, they lose the benefit. But God says clarity deepens when it is honored. The peace you felt when you chose correctly tonight is a signal, not a souvenir. It is meant to guide you again. You are entering a stretch where discernment will be tested, not through obvious opposition, but through familiarity. Situations will look similar to old ones. Conversations will sound familiar. Opportunities will resemble previous patterns. The difference is not in what you see, but in who you are now while seeing it. You are no longer reacting. You are responding. Archangel Michael says heaven is pleased with your willingness to pause. In a world that rewards speed, God rewards stillness. Stillness sharpens hearing, and hearing leads to right action. There is also a healing taking place beneath the surface. Some of the tension you carried was not from current situations, but from unresolved internal conflict. You were torn between who you needed to be to survive and who God created you to be. Tonight help reconcile that divide. God says you no longer have to choose between peace and truth. You can walk in both. This season ahead will require you to trust your discernment without overanalyzing it. When something feels misaligned, you do not need 10 confirmations. One prayerful pause is enough. Archangel Michael reminds you that God's voice brings clarity, not confusion. You may also notice a change in how people respond to you. Some will respect your boundaries more quickly. Others may pull back. Do not internalize either reaction. Boundaries reveal alignment. They do not create division. Those who are meant to walk with you will adjust. God is also restoring your confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet certainty. The kind that does not seek validation. The kind that moves steadily even when unseen. That confidence comes from knowing you are aligned, not from controlling outcomes. Archangel Michael says tonight, close the door, but it also strengthened a gate that guards your peace, your calling, and your future decisions. The gate is discernment exercised in trust. As you move forward, keep your spirit sensitive, but not fragile. Sensitive to God's leading, not to external pressure. Fragility reacts. Sensitivity discerns. Before this moment is sealed, receive this activation with intention and faith. Type "I walk in discernment" in the comments if this message resonates with your spirit. Blessing code 6142 is now released over your alignment, clarity, and peace. And now, let this flow naturally into what God is asking of those who feel the weight of this message. If this word reached you at the exact time you needed it, understand this. God intends it to reach others who are standing at similar thresholds but have not yet recognized the warning. This message is light, and light is meant to travel. I am speaking directly to those who feel stirred to act right now. Your support through super thanks, channel membership, or a PayPal seed found in the description becomes a prophetic extension of this very message. As God declares to you, the seed you release today will return as a harvest you will recognize tomorrow. When you give, you are not funding content. You are fueling clarity for souls who need direction before consequences form. Obey promptly, sow intentionally, and receive the blessings spoken over every hand that supports this mission with faith and urgency. My beloved one, Archangel Michael now draws your attention to the days immediately ahead, because what happens after alignment is just as important as the moment of decision itself. Many people experience clarity, but few know how to steward it. God is teaching you not only how to choose correctly, but how to remain steady once the pressure lifts. After a warning passes, there is often a quiet that follows. That quiet is not emptiness. It is space. Space where God begins to rebuild patterns, thoughts, and expectations that were shaped by old cycles. Archangel Michael says, do not rush to fill this space. Let it breathe. Let it settle. God does some of his deepest work in silence. You may notice that your emotions fluctuate slightly after tonight. One moment you feel relieved, the next reflective. This is normal. Your spirit has shifted position, and your soul is adjusting. Do not interpret this as uncertainty. It is integration. What you chose spiritually is being absorbed emotionally and mentally. God says this is where many people stumble. They mistake adjustment for doubt and try to re-engage old patterns for reassurance. But reassurance is not found in repetition. It is found in trust. Archangel Michael advises you to be mindful of what you revisit in the coming days. Old conversations, old habits, old thought loops. Not everything from the past is harmful, but not everything is helpful now. Discernment will guide you on what to reintroduce and what to leave behind. There is also a subtle temptation that may arise, the temptation to explain yourself repeatedly, to justify why you chose differently, to make others comfortable with your obedience. God says clarity does not require constant explanation. Over-explaining often reveals insecurity, not wisdom. Let your peace speak for you. You are not responsible for managing how others process your growth. Archangel Michael says heaven is watching how you protect what was restored. Alignment is precious. It must be guarded with intention. This does not mean isolation. It means awareness. Choose environments that reinforce peace. Choose conversations that sharpen discernment. Choose rhythms that allow you to hear God clearly. God is also preparing you for a new kind of confidence. Not confidence that pushes, but confidence that stands. You will notice that you no longer feel the need to rush decisions just to relieve tension. That urgency was never from God. It was from fear of disruption. That fear no longer governs you. As this confidence grows, opportunities will begin to present themselves again. Some will be genuine. Some will test your boundaries. Archangel Michael says the test is not whether the opportunity looks good, but whether it preserves peace. God's opportunities do not steal rest to give progress. Another truth is being revealed now. Your discernment will sharpen through use. Each time you pause, pray, and respond intentionally, it becomes more natural. You are training your spirit to recognize alignment quickly. What once took hours of wrestling will take moments of clarity. God says this is what maturity feels like. There may also be a moment where you grieve what could have happened if you had not been warned. The grief without regret, it is gratitude in disguise. It reminds you how protected you are. Let that gratitude deepen your trust rather than revive fear. Archangel Michael reassures you that you are not walking alone into what comes next. The same heaven that warned you is guiding you forward. Protection did not end with a decision. It continues in direction. Pay attention to small confirmations. A sense of calm during prayer. A timely word. A door that closes without resistance. These are signs that alignment is holding. God often confirms quietly. You may also feel a renewed desire to simplify, to reduce noise, to focus on what truly matters. This is not withdrawal. It is refinement. God is teaching you to invest energy where it multiplies, not where it drains. Archangel Michael says something important. You are allowed to enjoy peace without waiting for the next problem. Hypervigilance is not wisdom. Trust is. Do not look for another warning. Walk confidently in the one you honor. As you continue forward, remember this truth. Obedience does not just change outcomes. It changes identity. You begin to see yourself differently. Stronger. Clearer. More anchored. That self-perception will influence every decision you make next. God is pleased with the way you responded. Not because it was perfect, but because it was sincere. Heaven honors sincerity. Hold your alignment gently, but firmly. Let it guide you. Let it protect you. Let it grow. What lies ahead does not require fear. It requires faithfulness. And you are more than capable of that. My dear one, Archangel Michael now turns your attention to something many overlook after a critical moment passes: consistency. Alignment is powerful, but consistency is what sustains it. God is not only interested in how you responded tonight, He is invested in how you walk tomorrow, next week, and in the quiet moments when no urgency is felt. There is often a subtle danger after a breakthrough or correction. The mind relaxes, the guard lowers, and old habits try to reintroduce themselves gently, not forcefully. Archangel Michael says this is not an attack. It is a test of grounding. What you have gained must be practiced, not just remembered. God says you are entering a phase where spiritual maturity will be expressed through daily choices rather than dramatic moments. You will not always feel the intensity you felt tonight, and that is intentional. Intensity awakens. Stability builds. Heaven is now focusing on building. You may notice that God is less dramatic in His instructions moving forward. Fewer strong emotions, fewer urgent nudges. Instead, there will be quiet impressions, subtle checks, gentle redirections. This does not mean He is distant. It means you are learning to walk without needing alarms. Archangel Michael wants you to resist the urge to measure your alignment by how emotional you feel. Peace is not loud. Confidence is not rushed. Obedience does not always feel heroic. Often, it feels simple. God says this is where trust deepens. There will be moments when you are tempted to revisit the situation that almost unfolded, just to reassure yourself that you chose correctly. Do not linger there. Reflection is healthy, but dwelling can reopen emotional loops. Thank God for protection and move forward. Another important instruction is being released now. Guard your words. In the days ahead, speak less about what you avoided and more about where you are going. Language shapes focus. Focus shapes direction. Direction shapes outcomes. Archangel Michael also reveals that your discernment will now begin to influence others without you trying. People may ask your opinion more often. They may seek your perspective. Do not feel pressured to have all the answers. Offer clarity where you have it, silence where you do not. Wisdom does not compete. God is also reminding you that spiritual strength is built through rhythm. Prayer that is consistent, not intense. Scripture that is absorbed, not rushed. Rest that is intentional, not accidental. These rhythms will keep you steady even when life accelerates. If at any point you feel yourself becoming scattered again, return to simplicity. One prayer, one truth, one step of obedience. Complexity is often a sign of distraction, not depth. Archangel Michael says heaven is pleased with your willingness to learn, not just to act. Teachability keeps you aligned. Pride creates blind spots. Stay teachable. As this message continues to shape you, take a moment to recognize its value. If this word is strengthening you, anchor it by engaging with it. Like this message, share it with someone who may need guidance right now, and leave a comment declaring that you are walking in consistency and discernment. Make sure you are subscribed and connected, because what God is releasing next will build on this foundation and bring even more clarity. Pause for a second here, because what comes next is crucial. Many people miss this stage, and it determines whether alignment becomes a lifestyle or just a moment. Stay with this, because the next revelation will help you protect what God has already secured. Archangel Michael stands not as a warning figure now, but as a stabilizing presence. His assignment shifts from intervention to reinforcement. That alone should tell you something important. The danger has passed, but the responsibility remains. God trusts you with this responsibility. You are no longer walking reactively. You are walking intentionally. That shift will save you time, energy, and emotional strain in ways you may not immediately notice, but will deeply appreciate later. Do not underestimate the power of steady obedience. It builds futures quietly. Rest in the knowledge that you are aligned, guided, and supported. What God has begun, He is fully committed to completing. Beloved child, Archangel Michael now speaks with quiet assurance, because what remains is not warning but confirmation. You have crossed the most sensitive point already. What unfolds now is stabilization, the gentle but firm setting of what God has realigned. Many do not recognize this phase, yet it determines whether discernment becomes a lasting strength or a fading memory. God says the enemy's loudest opportunity has passed, but subtle invitations will still appear, not to derail you but to test your clarity. These invitations will not feel urgent. They will feel familiar. That is how you will recognize them. Familiarity without peace is your signal to pause. Archangel Michael reminds you that discernment matures when it is trusted. If you keep second-guessing what God has already made clear, you reopen doors that were closed for your protection. Trust does not mean arrogance. It means agreement. You are allowed to agree with God without revisiting every old fear. There is also something important happening in your inner world. Your identity is recalibrating. You are no longer seeing yourself as someone who reacts to situations, but as someone who responds with authority. This shift may feel subtle, but it will profoundly affect how you engage with people, decisions, and even yourself. God says you will notice that your tolerance for misalignment has decreased. Things you once endured quietly will now register quickly. This is not impatience. It is clarity. When vision sharpens, compromise becomes uncomfortable. Do not apologize for that. Archangel Michael also wants you to release the need for dramatic affirmation. You may not receive applause for choosing correctly. You may not even receive acknowledgement. But heaven has recorded your obedience, and that record carries more weight than public validation. But often rewards privately what He prepares publicly. There may be moments ahead where you feel an unexpected calm, almost unfamiliar. You are not used to peace lasting this long. When that happens, do not look for a problem. Receive the rest. Peace is not a pause before trouble. It is a sign of alignment holding. Archangel Michael says this peace is not fragile. It does not shatter easily. It is grounded because it is built on truth, not avoidance. Truth stabilizes. Avoidance delays. You are also entering a season where your prayers will change. Less pleading, more partnering. You will find yourself asking God how to steward what you have rather than how to survive what you face. A shift signals maturity. God says this is what answered prayer feels like before the visible manifestation arrives. Another layer is being addressed now. Trust in your own spiritual growth. You have learned from past mistakes. You have listened when corrected. You have stayed humble. That growth is real. Do not discount it by assuming you are always on the verge of failure. Fear of repeating the past should not overshadow gratitude for how far you have come. Archangel Michael says the enemy tries to keep people tied to old versions of themselves by constantly reminding them of who they were. God, however, calls you by who you are becoming. Choose which voice you agree with. You may also sense a renewed clarity around purpose. Not a full blueprint, but a direction. A sense of where your energy should go and where it should not. Honor that direction. Purpose rarely shouts. It guides quietly. God is also adjusting your pace. You will move forward steadily, not frantically. Fast enough to be effective, slow enough to remain discerning. This pace will protect you from burnout and distraction. Archangel Michael wants you to remember this. Alignment is not about perfection. You will still make minor missteps, but you will correct them quickly now, without spiraling. Correction no longer threatens your identity. It simply refines it. That is freedom. As this message settles, let gratitude anchor you. Thank God not only for the warning you received, but for the strength to respond. Thank Him for clarity before consequence. Thank Him for protection that arrived quietly but effectively. You are standing in a place of favor, not because you earned it, but because you honored it. Archangel Michael remains present, not as a watchman alerting danger, but as a guardian confirming stability. That shift matters. It tells you that heaven is no longer bracing for impact. It is supporting progress. What remains now is simple. Keep walking in what you chose. Do not dramatize it. Do not diminish it. Just live aligned. God is pleased. The path ahead is steady, and what is coming next will unfold without the resistance you once feared. Rest in that truth. My beloved child, Archangel Michael now speaks the closing seal over everything you have received, because completion is holy. What God begins, He finishes with intention, and what heaven warns, heaven also restores. This is not the end of a message, it is the beginning of a new posture in your life. Tonight did not simply redirect an outcome. It realigned your authority. God says you are leaving this moment with something deeper than relief. You are leaving with spiritual confidence that can't be easily shaken. Confidence not in circumstances, not in people, not even in outcomes, but in your ability to hear, discern, and obey. That is maturity. And maturity carries weight in the spirit. Archangel Michael confirms that the window of urgency has closed, but the window of opportunity has opened. What was dangerous has been neutralized. What was uncertain has been clarified. What was delayed is now positioned to move forward without resistance. This is what it means when Scripture says God goes before you and also stands behind you. You may notice in the days ahead that situations resolve themselves without confrontation. That is not coincidence. That is alignment doing its quiet work. When you choose correctly, many battles never need to be fought. God also wants you to understand this. You were not spared because you were afraid. You were spared because you were attentive. Heaven responds to attentiveness. You noticed the nudge. You honored the pause. You chose discernment over impulse. A choice echoes far beyond tonight. Archangel Michael says this moment will become a reference point for you. In the future, when another decision arises, your spirit will remember how peace felt when you chose alignment. That memory will guide you faster than fear ever could. Here is also a blessing being released over your mind. Overthinking is losing its grip. Second guessing is weakening. You will still be thoughtful but not tormented. Reflective but not paralyzed. God is restoring clarity as a natural state for you. Do not be surprised if your prayers become simpler. Fewer words. More agreement. That is not loss of passion, that is depth. When trust grows, explanation decreases. Archangel Michael stands now not as a messenger of urgency, but as a witness of completion. The sword that was raised in warning is now lowered in peace. The assignment has shifted, and so have you. God says you are free to move forward without looking back at what almost happened. Gratitude is enough. Fear is no longer required. You do not need to replay scenarios to stay safe. Obedience has already secured the ground. Now receive this final activation with faith and confidence. Type "I walk forward in authority" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9081 is now activated over your discernment, peace, and future decisions. And now, hear this carefully as the message flows into its final commission. If this word reached you at the exact moment it did, it is because God intended it to reach many others who are still standing in uncertainty. I am speaking directly to those whose spirit feels stirred right now. This is your assignment. As the word declares to you personally, cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. When you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or by sowing through the PayPal link in the description, you are releasing light into moments of darkness for others. I am inviting you, not suggesting, but calling you, to act now. Let your giving become a prophetic response, a holy agreement with what God is doing through this message. I speak blessing over every obedient seed, increase over every faithful giver, and clarity over every life this mission touches. Support this work now, and watch how God honors what you release in faith. Archangel Michael's message is complete. Walk forward steady. Walk forward unafraid. Walk forward aligned. Heaven has spoken.